Good afternoon, Bermuda, and apologies for the delay, but we are back for another Bermuda Youth Connect interview with your constituency candidates running in the general election of 2025. My name is Terry Tull, and I'm joined by Ajay Peets for an in-depth conversation with independent candidate Tiffany Paynter and Free Democratic Movement candidate Quinton Sherlock Jr., who are both running in constituency number 2, St. George's West. Earlier this morning, we spoke with independent candidate Justin Matthias and the One Bermuda Alliance candidate Douglas DeCudo from C25. So if you missed it, catch the replay on our YouTube channel.
Throughout this conversation, we'll be diving into key issues affecting our community, with a special focus on social issues and the current state of constituency 2. Our goal is to provide voters with insight into your perspectives, priorities, and plans for the future. With that, let's turn to independent candidate Tiffany Paynter, who will introduce herself to the audience.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that the opportunity to come on to Bermuda Youth Connect. First of all, as I was saying earlier in the mic check and tech, I've seen Mr. Sherlock and we've been both out canvassing, and there's only so many doors we're going to be able to get to in 2 weeks' time. So the opportunity to be here today is a blessing, and I appreciate it. So thank you for inviting us to speak to your audience. My name is Tiffany Paynter. I'm running in C2 because I am definitely a daughter of the St. George's community. Born and bred here in different locations. And when I look out, I have the same affinity for St. George's as Mr. Sherlock spoke about in his announcement. And I just feel like when I look at the landscape of where I could do the most good in my community, it's in C2. So I look forward to talking more and being a part of this conversation today.
Yeah.
And next, another brief introduction for the FDM candidate, Quinton Sherlock Jr., who will introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everyone. And just as Ms. Paynter had mentioned, I'm also very appreciative of this platform to be able to reach out to the youth that are in attendance today and then that may watch it recorded. Basically, I've lived a few different lives. In a previous life, I was taught at every level of the education system, primary, middle school, and high school. I lectured in child and youth studies and psychology at Bermuda College for 8 years. I then went on to new challenges in Ghana, West Africa, where I studied African program study and also started a charity there where up until today, I have 40 young people that come to my house in Ghana after school, get 1 hour tutorials, 1 hour of golf instruction. We feed them a hot meal. And then we also take them to the capital on Saturdays to play golf. So in the last 2 years, I've been returning to Bermuda, and it's like having not seen a family member for a long time. You can really tell that things have changed because I didn't see the day-to-day process. And the changes, unfortunately, haven't necessarily been for the better. So given that, my YC2, my uncle is Clarence Parfitt, the legendary St. George's cricketer. My great-grandfather is Bernard Hutzel. My cousins live until this day in the pilot Jimmy Darrow house. I'm a descendant of pilot Jimmy Darrow. And basically, with the election being called, it was an opportunity to get involved through my hat in the ring and the same energy that I was able to display in my most recent past with my time in Ghana, to be able to display that energy here in Bermuda.
Okay, thank you both for those introductions. Tiffany, I'm going to give the first question to you. During your press conference,
Sure.
you gave voters a picture of Bermuda, and you shared a really beautiful piece of your story, which has brought you here with us today. And you also declared that, quote, hope is not passive. After thinking about running for, quote, the better part of a year, tell us how hope has influenced your decision to run in this election, and more specifically, your decision to run in constituency number 2.
So for me, the dominoes that kind of just fell were a group of us got together and to try to save St. George Community Center. And I remember them asking me for my help to petition and write the speeches and write the PowerPoint. And I know it was Dwayne, Allen, and we petitioned almost a better part of a year ago to try to save St. George's Prep. And we felt like we made great points, big rationale, and we could feel the agreement of the people on the other side. To which they responded, they have no say and no power. So it felt like we were just going through the motions and that decisions were already made, even though it felt like the appearance of listening was happening. And that was the very first domino that fell for me. And then the independent wave, this independent movement where candidate by candidate started coming forth, and I'm tuning in to Cyrese in up in Sands. I'm tuning in. I'm listening to Sir John. I'm listening. Then Wane. And so this whole time, people have been encouraging me to throw my hat in the ring. I've also been launching a new business. I've not had the time. And when finally Wane did, it was almost around the same time that the decision to go forward was called. And I felt like it was wrong to call the election so quickly, so soon, and not allowing young people the opportunity to be home at least from university to vote. So these were kind of the dominoes, and I went from admittedly a feeling of resignation. I was kind of resigned to what we were dealing with and that we would always deal with it. And I would have to say, I feel like Sir John kind of lit the fuse, and then like was the first candle, and his candle lit another candle and another candle and another. And then I just got completely frustrated with the decision to call the election so soon. And I saw the RG article with Ashe, how do you say her name?
Asha.
Asha. And I was just like, wow, wow. And all of these dominoes just kind of invigorated my hope, where I felt very resigned. And then I realized that I had to be more than just hopeful. I had to be the thing I wanted, which was something to vote for. And that's why I decided to put my hat in the ring.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Is there anything else that I missed? I know there was like a two-part question.
No, I mean, the question was just tell us about your, like, what brought you
here.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aj.
So February brings about Black History Month, and Quinton, you describe yourself as a Pan-Africanist. You stated, my Pan-Africanism passion is evidenced by events I have organized promoting the sentiment that people of African descent have a great deal in common, a fact that deserves notice and even celebration. Tell us what that means to you and explain what its relevance to Bermuda's racial history and current trends.
Okay. Yeah, basically, the idea of Pan-Africanism is the notion that Black people throughout the world have a connection. And really, right now, I think that sentiment is even more relevant today because the world itself has become a very small place. In terms of its relevance to today's youth. Even when I first decided to go and head over to Ghana, although I was far from being the first Bermudian to go and spend some time in that part of the world, there were only few. Here in the recent past, I mean, just a few months ago, someone was reaching out to me to see if I was there in Ghana because a large group of Bermudians had actually went to Ghana. So I think that the idea is that it's known that all humanity first came from Africa. For us as quote unquote Black people, we know that our most recent history is definitely connected to the continent. And now we have a mechanism for us to go there and actually experience, see, feel, smell, and hear that part of our history live and direct. It's not as far-fetched. I mean, the fact that we still have gumbays that are a big part of our culture in Bermuda is evidence of our cultural connectedness. In Ghana, West Africa, on holidays, Easter, Christmas, you have what they call their masquerades. And you can see how the masquerades are you see how the gumbays are a direct link, a cultural link to the continent. And I just think that when you think about even us from a psychological perspective, just having an awareness of that story, and like I said, now the reality that we can get on a plane and know people that feel comfortable in places far off as quote unquote Ghana to go and visit they call them castles, but I call them dungeons that they are transmitting people through, and see that experience that we are the result of that. We are the miracle of that. And what really big thing for me in terms of our within Bermuda is that yes, we all know that we are going through difficult times and hard times at present, but in some respects, that's also relative. So in Ghana, I work with my charity. Not one young person in my charity today has running water in their house. So the idea is that when we can make these pilgrimages and see how even today people are living, one, we can also get a better appreciation for what we do have in Bermuda. And much like Ms. Paynter had mentioned, this idea of hope, I'm also very much a believer in hope. And some of the disgruntledness or even the disillusionment that I think some of our young people are experiencing, because part of the loss of hope is wondering, well, where do I fit in? How and where can I make a contribution? And I know, like even in our program in Ghana and places like this, you can go to these places, get a culturally emergent experience, but believe it or not, just the simplest thing as teaching a young person English can be something that can mean the world to them. And then people can feel a sense of fulfillment, feel a sense of worth that can hopefully kind of motivate them even when they return to the island and say, okay, now when I go hit the light switch on, it's definitely going to come on because it's 50-50 in Ghana. But I also know that I've just made an impact on someone's life that's going to remember me forever. And those sort of feelings can inspire you to continue to kind of find areas and places to do good. So all in all, Africa is the home of all of humanity. Africa is a direct link for us as Black people as our most recent span. And Africa is a lot closer than it's been in most recent times. So I think it's very much relevant and it's a part of kind of, answering part of our issues that we have. There's no panacea, but I think it definitely has a role to play.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Quinton. Tiffany, back to you. I think Ajay has a question.
Yes.
So, Tiffany, what has the response to you in constituency 2 been like? And what are the people most concerned about or looking for in a representative in the House?
So the response has been really great. I have to admit, I didn't expect it to be so overwhelmingly positive. The majority, I've been out canvassing in Ferry Reach, Mullet Bay, Wellington Slip, and overwhelmingly people have really responded well to the original press conference when I announced. And in terms of it feels like people are hopeful again. A lot of people are saying they planned on spoiling their ballot or they planned on not voting at all. Both PLP candidates and not candidates, PLP fans and OBA fans, they've both said the same thing, that they're fed up with this system. They feel like Bermuda's too small for every 4 years for us to be going through this again and again, where the divisions in the parties become divisions among the people. And so that has been really I'm uplifted by the community's support and response in general. And so one of the things I'm asking on everyone's doorstep is, what is the things that matter most to you in C2? And then what are the things that matter most to you on a national level, both local and national, or neighborhood level? And in the neighborhoods, what I'm learning is that they feel like their representative comes around twice a year, basically, and that they never see their representative. Only around election time do they see them. And they've been complaining about needing speed bumps along the way, made it safer. The railway trails are overgrown, haven't been cut in about 8 months. They can't even walk their dogs or walk themselves on the railway trails, which are beautiful and give some of the best sunsets on island. And they can't even access them because the overgrowth is insane. They want Mullet Bay Park cleaned up and the overgrowth in the park worked on. They feel like there are cliffs that are unsafe on the roadside, as well as the roads, but that's everywhere. That's in every parish at this point in time.
Right.
And from their representative, they want someone who they see more than once a year. They want someone who they feel has the time and willingness to care. And just today, I spoke with a woman, Jennifer, and her mother, Jan, and I said to them, look, if I say that I'm going to be here more than once a year, you'll just hear the same thing everybody else is saying, the same thing your politician said to get them elected the last time. So what actually I'm asking for is more faith this time around. The faith, and then only with the faith in me, then I can then earn your trust when I actually do show up. And anyone that knows me knows that if it needs to be me out there paying someone to borrow the lawnmower and cut down the branches and get works in engineering, or whoever, public or private, to really help us beautify these neighborhoods again, then it'll be me out there helping to make it happen. I will roll up my sleeves in any way, shape, or form. And then the larger issues that people are talking about are the same issues we're hearing again, but I'm getting more of a personal, anecdotal insight into how painful it is really for some people, and the real dilemmas that they're having between insurance, paying for insurance, and paying for groceries is real. I didn't realize coming out. I thought maybe I would have like 15 minutes on a doorstep and then we'll be able to really move from house to house. But our people are really hurting and they're inviting me into their living rooms and they want to talk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I mean, I'm sure Quentin has witnessed the same thing. He's out there on the pavement as well. And they have so much to say. They have so much on their hearts, and they're really feeling the pinch in terms of groceries. I had one woman who works in an exempt company who's living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, buying groceries day to day. And so it's really actually is actually emboldened, and it makes me feel even better having made this decision to know that I could be the person representing these needs and really give C2 a better chance.
Okay, thank you for that, Tiffany. Quinton, back to you. The FGM economic policy cites cannabis for economic diversification, but this industry currently faces a lot of regulatory risk and constraints and social concerns, which could lead to uncertainty around revenue. How will you, or how does the FDM ensure that this would drive sustainable growth while protecting local businesses? For example, like Uplift, which apparently has been impacted by regulatory authorities, and prevent larger external players from dominating said market?
Well, obviously, we have to be mindful again of kind of like the spillover effect of instituting certain policies. But ultimately, one of the FDM's core principles in the economy and things of that nature is competition. So we would definitely want to create a playing field where people would be rewarded based upon their ability to provide a service, as opposed to allowing, for lack of better terms, a heavyweight or some type of a monopoly-ish type of perspective to come in and completely dominate a field. Ultimately, what helps it to drive quality service and quality products is competition. So it'll be a way to kind of lay it out so that multiple people can get involved, multiple people can compete, and those that are providing a better service are the ones that thrive, not just someone who happens to be on kind of like on the friends and family list, for lack of better terms, that gets to kind of monopolize the area or the field.
Okay, thank you for that. Tiffany, back to you. There's been some growing skepticism or concern from voters who are still largely hesitant to maybe vote for independent candidates because they feel like they would lack the accountability and party support necessary to be effective in the House. Speak directly to them and tell them about the path that independents can clear for the populace, to use your terms from the press conference in the future.
Right. So I'm getting those questions as I'm canvassing as well. I don't want to split the vote. What are you going to be able to do when you get into Parliament, etc.? So my ideal vision of this is that as I said in my speech, the best 36 people are elected this year. We have a situation where 36 people were put forward by the PLP. So imagine the numbers, just doing the numbers. There's 36 PLP candidates. And then that's one side. On the other side, you have 36 OBA candidates. You have about, I don't know, 15 or 12. How many, Quinton, FDM? And then you have
We have 10.
25 independents. So, right, so 10. So you have 25 independents. That just numbers alone gives us the best chance to break this 30-seat hold that is currently in government. We need to break that 30-seat hold because right now nothing is debated. Decisions are made behind closed doors. They're stamped. Nobody even has to argue or is arguing in Parliament because all the things are already decided before they even come into Parliament. That's the weakness of our democracy right now. So my vision is that we have a few from the OBA, the best from the OBA, the best from the PLP, the best from the FDM, and the best independents. And the people will finally see that a best of 36 candidates is really not only what we need and deserve, but it will give us the best chance. How it works is how it was always meant to work. It was always meant to be the best ideas put forward, debated, and then a majority vote pushes forward the best idea. But that's not what happens anymore because you have two parties and one party with a vast majority. So it doesn't matter if the idea is good or not. It just matters which party put forward the idea. In this way, in the parliament that I'm imagining, the best 36, the ideas will be voted on their merit. People vote based on the merit of the idea itself, and that goes forward. There's a whole history of private members' bills that actually have created agreement between the different parties in the history of the parties. So as an independent, I'm fully able to put forward a private member's bill along with the FDM, along with anyone else who's in, to push forward better policies and better projects and ideas into the systems to help us all. I know it's hard for people to imagine because a lot of people don't even pay attention anymore to the Friday afternoon broadcast. We're not taught any of this in school. So it seems like we have to defer our power to one party or the next. But what I'm envisioning is actually the best and brightest around the table. And I know people think it's pie in the sky because it is somewhat. It's like mythological King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table kind of vibe. But the idea of that was it was the best of their society around the table, putting forward the best ideas, right? So this is what I'm trying to put forward. And I think it's very possible because I'm very logical just on the numbers alone. Just on the sheer numbers alone, historic numbers. We should be proud. The FDM should be proud. Bermuda should be proud. Like I thought I was going to be one of 7 independents, and then whoosh, this wave of people I've never seen, never heard from. People are just tired. I'm excited. I've never been excited for an election. I'm actually excited, and I hope this excitement is invigorating our community and reigniting us all to be paying attention.
Yeah. We feel your excitement. I mean, I know for me personally, when I saw your press conference, I was reminded of what I think a politic should look like because you gave a genuine picture of Bermuda, but you were also inspiring. So that was very good for me as a young person to see. But we're going to kind of take a break and go to the audience first. We have a question from Kristen White.
Question for Quinton. Pan-Africanists are definitely a more socialist ideology. Are you a socialist? FDM's deregulation, decentralization platform tends to seem more libertarian.
1 second, Quinton, we can't hear you.
Yeah, there you go. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I would not classify myself as a socialist. And part of the idea that Pan-Africanism leans towards socialism, there is also some theory out there that actually has Pan-Africanism a little bit more centered and even potentially a little bit more right, because we definitely are going for the idea of the deregulation and decentralization of the schools within the Pan-African, within the African stories. You do have those homogeneous societies, but you also have what they call acipless societies, where each group kind of independently monitored and controlled their own region. So I think that Pan-Africanism is a broad scope, although what we have heard more about is maybe the socialist aspect of it, but I would not classify myself as a socialist by any means.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. We also have another one from Kiera Verne BDA. This is for Tiffany. What is Tiffany's view in the bartering system to at least give people the opportunity to not only help their neighbor keep their skills fresh and at the same time give a service for goods/shelter?
I'm a big believer in the barter system for the creation of Treehouse. So I've just opened up a business called Treehouse, which is a yoga and wellness space that's specifically dedicated to getting more Black and brown people on yoga mats and getting holistic wellness. So it's a whole umbrella of services and businesses that offer holistic care. And part of how we were able to be so quickly up off the ground and quickly up and running was we bartered. We traded yoga sessions and memberships for time, for skills, for work, for goods and services. And so I think it will offer a way forward. And I think we do need to, as a community, find the courage to ask. One thing people kept saying is asking me is like, how do you even ask? And I just said, I am the victim of a very logical mind. And if I need it, I ask. And if I don't have it, but I have something I can offer, I barter. And so for me, that's the opportunity. We're even now looking at a way where we can offer free yoga classes and free services for just cleaning this book, Sacred Commerce, I recommend it to anyone interested in a new way, a new thing beyond capitalism. It's called Sacred Commerce. And my partner Caitlin and it completely grounded our idea for a social enterprise. And I feel like yes to your question, and Kia, I do think it's a great way to come together and move each other forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Ajay, over to you.
Yes. So we would like to show a quick snippet of Quinton, your press conference, because that leads very well into our next question.
In St. George's, we boast of a 4-star hotel, we boast of lovely beaches, and we also boast of a beautiful scenic golf course. All of which, and we also boast, of a very rich and unique and interesting history, which, if packaged together and packaged well, could really help to kind of get the word out there about what St. George's has to offer and help to kind of boost and revitalize the area. So I honestly believe and feel that the St. George's area is an untapped gem that, with some concerted effort, some good, well thought out plans, we can see that area come back to life.
So you mentioned a lot of plans for C2, and also with the accumulation of your experience, what was the biggest takeaway from your experience specifically with the ACID Foundation, and how do you plan to apply those lessons to grow and improve the constituency C2 community?
Okay, all right. So specifically in reference to my experience with ACID Foundation and how that can then translate into what I can do in constituency 2. Well, ACID Foundation was ultimately an exercise of taking a vision and turning it into reality. Like I said, in the past, I've worked with young people. I've taught in Bermuda. I was running Bermuda Junior Golf Association prior to going to Ghana. And so I found myself in Ghana in a space where I saw a need, and I found a way to become an asset in that space, using my talents and my skills, my background in education, my background in golf, to then create a program that helps to empower disadvantaged young people. And now fast forward, here we are today, that program is up and running with young people from that community running the program with me not being there. And so now within constituency 2, I'm beyond my family ties, I'm also working on some potential business opportunities to be able to open up a golfing venture in the constituency, or in St. George's, where I'll be able to roll out or basically transfer the same energies and efforts that I was able to manifest in what we call ACID Foundation, now Care Ghana, in Bermuda. And my thing is that when I arrived in the community in Gumwafeta in Ghana in 2015, not one of those young people knew who Tiger Woods was. But yet today, we are producing golfers. I entered Gumwafeta not knowing a single person, not speaking the language, and with bare minimum resources. So my question to myself is, imagine if you're in a space where people know you, you know people, you are fluent in the language that's prevalent in that space, and the resources that are going to be available in Bermuda are much more than the resources that were available to me in Ghana. So then the mind begins to turn to say, now imagine what you're able to develop in this space. So in terms of specifically the ACID experience, it's shown me that with dedication, with commitment, not saying that it's a walk in the park, we have our ups and downs, we have our challenges, but if you stay committed and focused, you can turn your vision into reality, and you can manifest that which starts as an idea and a plan. And what I'm saying with regards to constituency 2, my niche, if you will, is my golf and my education background. So that is to say to the people that are already doing work in this area, that I too can become an asset to join your team, because I know that there are already people actively working in St. George's, very passionate about the community. And I'm saying that I can be an asset to bring my little niche, but together we can all work collectively to bring our shared vision to a reality, and really just basing on the principle of iron sharpens iron. And if I can do it in Ghana, West Africa, I'm confident of my abilities in Bermuda.
So now shifting gears to you, Tiffany. In your press conference announcing your candidacy, you alluded to the low voter turnout in the 2020 election and encouraged voters to come out and, quote, vote for the best and brightest people, end quote. What is at stake at this election, and why do you think people must come out and vote particularly for you? And before you answer, we do have a clip of your press conference.
Year after year, there are thousands of us who aren't showing up to vote because we're too busy paying bills or treading water to pay attention to promises written in disappearing ink. So I make no promises today because I need to listen first. And I'll be canvassing over the next few weeks to listen to the hopes and dreams of my St. George's community and sharing those ideas that I have to help move us forward. Turning now to the 10,000 of us who didn't show up to vote in 2020 that showed up to vote the year before. You could rise up and tidal wave this whole system by voting for the best candidate instead of a party.
Very powerful. What are your thoughts on that?
What was your initial question, RJ? Sorry.
What is at stake with this election, and why do you think people must come out and vote, particularly for you?
Particularly for me. So particularly for me, I feel that right now many voices are silenced in Parliament because they belong to a party. We don't have independent voices in Parliament. We have, and even when we do have really strong-willed, brilliant people, they are reined in when they step out of line, such as brilliant minds like Curtis Dickinson, who stepped up to say, like, this deal at the Southampton Princess is not thought through. It is not going to end well. It's going to be another failed idea. And what happened? Completely reined back in. No longer Minister of Finance. And so for me, I feel the strength of the independence is, and me as well as an independent, is that we are not beholden to any particular party. I can actually vote for the best ideas that are put forward. We can vote for the PLP's ideas, or the OBA's ideas, or the FDM's ideas, or private member bills that are put forward, and eventually what can emerge, what would happen is with Bermuda, where the best and best ideas are able to be funded, energy put behind them, and we have a plan that multiple people believe in. So if you have a great idea, you actually, as a leader, it's your role to get people on board that idea. Not with coercion, but actually bring them to the point where all these varying and differing ideas can come and align around some shared purpose. And that shared purpose is really Bermuda right now. One of the other reasons I said in my speech, I am not making promises today, is because we don't even know what we're working with as a country. We have this beautiful, shiny country, right? Just like many people's fridges. Many people's fridges are nice and shiny on the outside, and then when we open the fridges up, they're empty. We have no idea what money we actually have to work with. So trying to make promises right now when we have no idea what the budget is, I think it's unwise. I can only tell people my ideas. I can only share what I see as solutions to what's out there. And I know that based on our debt, that we are going to have to create some public-private partnerships here and get a wider net of community support to really help all Bermudians in need right now. What's at stake is that if we just stick to if we don't actually give each individual person a chance to come to our doorstep, to be known, to look at the 4 people, to hold them to account in this moment in time, and we just vote party, we just vote color lines, we just vote green or red or yellow, then we're really doing ourselves another disservice here. Because we can actually have a government that is representative of everyone at this moment in time, which could only be the best option of all the options as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, thank you for that. Quinton, we're going to come back to you. You're the new president of the Bermuda Professional Golfers Association, and major tournaments like the PGA provide a big boost to Bermuda's economy in the tourism sector. How do you plan to use or leverage your leadership and political engagement to grow sports tourism while benefiting local athletes and communities?
Thanks. So definitely we've seen some added and increased attention given to the island from the PGA. The PGA has also makes annual donations to the BPGA and also to the Bermuda Golf Association that helps us to further develop and give opportunities to local athletes. Now, in general, the idea is that sports tourism, I think, can really be a major play a role in our economy. Part of what I'm looking to try to do is opening up, and personally first speaking, I'm trying to open up a internationally recognized golf academy on the island. Even last week, I had a gentleman fly in from New York to take 3 days of golf lessons with me. So I think that with our close proximity to the Eastern Seaboard, things such as golf, track and field, I saw last year, I think they did have the Howard swim team come down. Bermuda is an easy place for teams to get away and athletes to get away, and in a somewhat isolated environment to focus on their discipline and their craft, get some intensive training going on. We have infrastructure to be able to provide some state-of-the-art facilities. We have golf facilities, we have tennis facilities, we have the National Sports Stadium where they can utilize. We have accommodations, we have restaurants where they can get their food. This can also then be a bit of an inspiration for our local athletes for them to be able to kind of see first and forehand what it takes for athletes at the highest level who come here to train and perform. Because I just think that in general, and I'm speaking from my own life experiences, that sports is a great catalyst, not only for the one person or the 1 in 1,000 that gets to become a professional athlete playing the sport and making a living, but even in our youth, sports is a great vehicle to build character, to build a whole lot of characteristics that we would want: perseverance, patience. And then if you do develop a level of proficiency, you're all then able to maybe go to university and get an education while still playing your sport. I, for one, went to undergraduate on a full golf scholarship. My parents didn't have to pay anything. I know friends that have gone on track scholarships. We all know about the football scholarships, but there's a plethora of opportunities out there for sports. And then the idea is that, again, if you talk about golf, one of the things that I've done in my role as the president of the Bermuda Professional Golf Association is I'm affiliated again with a brand called Golf Zone Ledbetter. Those that may know about golf, Ledbetter is one of the top names in golf instruction in the world. And through my affiliation and then in my role as president, I was able to bring one of the instructors down to actually offer courses to our local pros to get certification and training in this teaching technique. So in that same light, as we begin to kind of get the young people interested in the variety of sports, when we're able to get our young people's proficiency level reaching to a certain point in a number of sports, and then we're already becoming a bit of a training ground during the off season, during winter times for different sports, our young people can get exposure and seeing those top level athletes perform. And the thing is that it's not only the opportunity to play the sport, to be immersed in the sport for career ongoing. I can speak the most about golf because that's what I know, but I don't play golf for a living, but I teach golf. So I love the sport. I'm still involved in the sport. I may go and work on the golf course and get an agronomy degree and take care of the golf course facilities. I may become an administrator and become a director of a golf facility. Well, I think in a variety of other sports, these similar sorts of roles are also available. And I think it's about the exposure. Ultimately, it's about taking advantage of our close proximity to the eastern seaboard, and then our better weather, particularly during the winter months, that we can capitalize on. We already have bits and pieces of the infrastructure that will be required to host and facilitate these sorts of teams. And then again, it gets back to what Ms. Paynter said, this word of hope, instilling and imbuing hope in our young people. Because even in my experience in Ghana, we can talk, as we say in Ghana, you can talk all you want. But for some people, what kicks them over the line, as the saying goes, seeing is believing. So if we're able to bring some of these athletes and these different sporting teams to the island, our young people can see what's available. They can be inspired by them. They can hopefully delve deeper into their own discipline, create opportunities for themselves athletically and or educationally, and potentially find even careers in these areas, whether it's playing, administration, coaching. But again, we can better provide that initial spark by bringing these athletes here to train.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you laid it out very clearly, particularly about how sports is not just the athletes. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that like the show happens with like the star players, but there's tons of support networks undergirding it. So thank you for that. We're going back to Tiffany. Tiffany, you're the former executive director of Out Bermuda. How does this and your experience and your leadership in that role help you as a candidate, and what lessons from Out Bermuda are you hoping to take with you to the House if successful?
So I've worn many hats in my life. Before as a teen, I was working for the government in summer day camp programs. Then I was able to be an art teacher. Then moving on to doing community strategic outreach for the Project for Performing Arts. And then I was able to be the community center supervisor at the St. George Community Center for a while, working with amazing staff down there of people who truly are in service of the community, like Carla and Capriel and CJ, and who have been there for years, even when I was a kid teaching. And then as executive director, and then as a business owner. And for me, this moment in time just represents the convergence and alignment of everything I've learned. And I learn from everything, and I learn from everywhere. I steal successes. I think that's what I'm bringing to Parliament, That's what I hope to bring to Parliament if the constituents of C2 feel that I'm worthy and capable. I know that I'm capable. It's just a matter of proving to the members of C2 that I'm worthy. And so I'm asking for their faith in me in this vote as the best candidate to break this 30-seat stronghold that the PLP have right now in Parliament. For me, I have always, since I was a kid, been walking in various worlds from various people, as I said in my speech, and navigating to Bermudas. And I feel one of the things that allows me to walk these worlds is that I'm able to actually put myself in another person's shoes. I know there's a saying, take a walk in someone else's shoes, but often we forget to actually feel what it's like in that person's shoes and to speak from that perspective. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to C2. I feel like did I drop off the call?
No,
Can
you're
you
still
still
here.
hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're still here. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Sorry, everything went frozen and I was like, oh no. I was like,
We're
oh
still here
no.
with you. Yeah, we're still here with you. Oh, now you dropped off the call. Oopsie. Okay, so we'll wait for Tiffany to get back. But in the meantime, Aj, do you want to ask Quinton the question?
Yes. So you have a background in psychology, which I was very excited to find out about. So, with your background in psychology, how do you view the importance of addressing Bermuda's growing mental health crisis, particularly among our youth? Do you have plans to leverage your expertise to implement mental health initiatives within your constituency and also the greater community?
Yeah, I think that we definitely have a rise of issues with mental health in Bermuda. And part of my training, part of even what the training prepares you for, is to be able to work in this space to demystify the idea of seeking support and help for mental health issues. Um, Again, the cliche, sorry to put it in this manner, but the cliche of it is that we go and get everything else checked from our bodies to our cars. Why not go and get our minds checked? Because the brain is such a powerful mechanism. And in some regards, it has things doing, in some instances, it has us doing things that in other states we would say and speak alternatively towards. So one is definitely leaning upon my training and my experience in efforts of trying to normalize the idea of getting mental of counseling. Let me say it like that because I don't. Yeah, of counseling. The idea of that it's not necessarily so much of a taboo for people who may suffer from different sorts of mental disorders. Ultimately, the ideas is first about acknowledgement, acceptance, and then we can start to move into a space of healing. Part of our thing, even if you look at, if I may say, even in the Black community, we're oftentimes very reluctant to actually get into any sort of mental health counseling. We say, well, it's not for us. But ultimately, again, I'm never talking in the sense of a panacea, but it is definitely a part of a healing process. So it's about demystifying it. It's about saying it's okay if you have a counselor and you go to see a counselor, because we can think about it, because we do it on like a smaller level and it's okay. But I think sometimes we get a little bit timid when it does get to this really pressing matters, i.e., you can have a rough day, but yet when you come home to your significant other or a family member and just talk about it, oh, wow, I actually feel better. Thank you for listening. So imagine if we have those more pressing issues. And I mean, this topic, beyond it being a professional thing, it also has recently become a bit of a personal thing for me and my family. And with that being said, I think that, even legislatively, I think that there are certain steps that we need to be taking to help people who are dealing with some of the effects of some of the violence and some of the violence that's taking place on our island, so that acts of violence that have taken place that may potentially then spur on or spark certain type of issues within people can be addressed and dealt with before the snowball effect takes place. So I definitely see areas within actually legislation that we can address mental health issues, mental health challenges, and let me also just kind of step back from mental health issues, but that we can address stresses that members in our community are being put through as a result of some of the antisocial behaviors and violence that's being addressed on our island. There are certain things that if you refuse a certain service, you have to sign a document to say that you refused the service, but the service was offered, but you refused it. I think that there are other spaces that similar sorts of protocols can be put in place that can help prevent a potential snowballing effect as a result of some of the unfortunate acts that we are seeing taking place on our island. So mental health is obviously near and dear. I spent a lot of time studying it. It's something that you can't get away from. We have to demystify it. We have to let people know it's okay if you have a counselor, you have a doctor for your body, don't you? Well, why don't you have a doctor for your mind?
Yeah, thank you for that. Very comprehensive. Tiffany, welcome back. I'm going to bring you in on the same question. Hang on.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. To your question, as I was just to finish answering that question, all the roles that I've played over the last 20 years of my life, even more. I've gained the ability to manage budgets, human resources skills, volunteer coordination, project management. The list goes on. Structural analysis, strategy. I have acquired so many different skills over the course of my life. And in addition to being able to work in government, work in nonprofit, and work in the business sector, I have a huge network that spans every walk of life, every type of person in Bermuda. And so I do ask questions of my network, and I do rely on my network and my relationships and friendships with everybody within these different realms to help me to see the whole picture. And I think that's what we need from a leader. We need somebody who's able, and from our leaders in general, somebody's able to see the entire picture as well as the weeds. In the recent fires in California, I've noticed, and this is what I meant by earlier when I was saying I learned from everything. They have a team. So whenever there's a fire, there's firefighters that are tasked with putting out the fires. And there's another smaller team that's in charge of trenching way up the line, creating trenches, felling forest, tearing down anything that you have to fuel the fire. There's this idea of you've got to be able to, yes, see what's urgent and see what's right in front of you, but you've also got to be able to look ahead and ensure that what is happening, this crisis happening now, doesn't continue to impact and affect everything around it. And so these are the skills that I have gathered over the last 20 plus years, and these are the skills and a mindset that I want to bring to Parliament.
Thank you for that. Ajay, over to you.
So before we go, we would like to give you both 1 minute to give closing remarks. First, we would like to hand it over to Tiffany and then to Quinton Sherlock Jr.
I gotta talk again? No worries. It's okay. I'm okay. I just, I like the passing of the baton, but closing remarks. First, again, thank you for inviting us both here. I know it's said, but it is Black History Month. There is a precedent of student movements in every decade, in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 60s, we had young people in the civil rights movement who rose up and really led that movement. In the 70s, we had the apartheid movement in South Africa, which was really led by the school-aged people in Soweto rising up and demanding a fair government and demanding justice. In the 80s, we had Tiananmen Square. Again, all these movements started by young people. And I know that our generation and up, my generation and up, doesn't think that young people are going to come out to vote. But your audience is really young people. So my last words are to the young people who are 18 and up, voting for the first time, voting for the second time, and maybe thinking your vote doesn't matter, maybe looking around and seeing that you don't have options. Find an option. Don't spoil your ballot. Don't not show up. This movement depends on those 10,000 people who didn't show up in 2020, and those other people who couldn't even vote in 2020 because they were too young to vote now and to make their voice heard. And I really hope that this message of like the best and brightest 36 gets across to as many young people as possible, because I feel like there's enough hope within your generation to understand that this is not it shouldn't be an ideal. It should be the norm. What we have right now, the status quo, is sickness. It's this mindset that what was must always be, and that's not a mindset that's going to move us forward. So I hope that we do vote. I hope that your audience, you young people, vote.
Quinton, over to you.
Do I also get a Tiffany minute, or are we doing this? Sorry, my bad sense of humor. Real fast, I would like to say, I want to echo what Ms. Paynter said in terms of young people come out and vote, find an option, exercise your right. But what I would like to add is that no one knows the future, but the best predictor of the future is the past. And what I'm saying to constituents of C2 is that what I know is that in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I was able to turn a vision into reality in the program in West Africa with minimum resources. My aim and my objective is to bring that same energy to constituency 2, and not only what I have to offer, but also work with the people that are already active in this community to turn our collective vision of a better, more vibrant St. George's into a reality. And within these political cycles, I would also just encourage our young people that they may not need this encouragement, but I'll put it out there that we should be wary of persons who have been in positions of power, been in positions of leadership for a period of time, and have now brought us back to another election cycle and are asking you to trust them with your vote based off of promises. And I'm just saying that I believe that I'm a candidate in my area who actually has tangible results of what I've done in the recent past, and also what I've been able to do in the not so recent past. And if I can simply be given the opportunity to manifest the same sorts of energies and efforts in constituency 2, I would be most grateful. And again, like Ms. Paynter said, thank Bermuda Youth Connect, thank you two hosts, and thank everyone who tuned in for this opportunity to share and engage with you all.
Well, that wraps up our discussion. But before we go, we want to thank you, Tiffany Paynter and Quinton Sherlock Jr., for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate your time and perspectives on these important issues, and we strongly encourage all the constituents of C2 to come out and vote on February 18th. For more updates on election events, follow Bermuda Youth Connect on Instagram, X, or Facebook. Have a good evening, everyone.